G'day, mate. Welcome to Solrak Mangaverse. If you're a big fan of solo leveling, you've got a key role here. Hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and drop a comment sharing your thoughts on the chapters and how you're enjoying the read. I'd love to hear what you reckon so we can turn this journey into a real adventure together. So don't waste a second, join this awesome community, and let's level up together. Before he could even take a breath, Park Eun-ho bolted forward, his face stricken with panic. Sung. Cha Hae-In's on the verge of death. Jin-Woo's heart pounded violently. He'd spent far too long wrapped up in the battle. Now, every second mattered. He needed a solution, and fast. His shadow exchange skill was still on cooldown. And even if it was available, he'd never tried using it while carrying someone else. Riding kaisail and flying off in search of a healer? Impossible. Cha Hae-In wouldn't last until he got back. Desperately, he began weighing his options. Was there any chance a healer from Japan's Draw Sword Guild was still alive? There was no time to go looking. That's when a bold idea hit him. Jin-Woo turned to the cameraman and ordered in a firm voice. "Turn off the camera." The man hesitated, not understanding why. Jin-Woo's expression hardened, his voice sharp as a blade. "If you don't shut it off now, I'll destroy the gear myself." Faced with that intimidating presence, the cameraman didn't dare argue. He turned everything off immediately. He still didn't get why he was told to do that. But something about Sung Jin-Woo's aura made it impossible to defy him. With the cameras out of the way, Jin-Woo could now act freely. He turned to the shadows and gave the command. "Bring me Min Byeong-Gu's body." Park Eun-ho's eyes widened in disbelief. This can't be real. Soon, one of the shadows, shaped like a high-ranking orc, rose from the ground, carrying the decapitated body of the S-rank hunter. Carefully, it laid the body at Jin-Woo's feet. He remained still. His eyes were locked in place. One thought echoed over and over in his mind. Is it still possible? Can my power still reach this body? Confused, Park asked. "Sung, what are you trying to do?" Jin-Woo said nothing. He knew there was only one shot. Shadow extraction. If it worked, they'd have Korea's most powerful S-rank healer by their side. He took a deep breath, raised his hand over Min Byeong-Gu's body, and declared with conviction. "Rise." The air seemed to vibrate. Dark energy spread out, pulsing along the ground. But, nothing. Park watched, stunned. Jin-Woo narrowed his eyes. It had failed. But giving up wasn't an option. Once more, now with even more strength, he commanded. "Rise." The shadow energy exploded around him with even greater force. And again, nothing. The silence that followed felt crushing. As if time itself had come to a halt. There was one last chance. His heart pounded like a war drum. It was all or nothing. Sung Jin-Woo reached out one final time. "Rise." His voice echoed across the field like a command no one could possibly ignore. He'd already failed twice, something almost unthinkable, given the level of his skill. There was something beyond his understanding stopping Min Byeong-Gu from returning. As if the healer himself was refusing the call, silently whispering. Bringing back the shadow of a human is a mistake. But the lives of those still breathing came first. And Cha Hae-In had to live. Stealing his resolve, Jin-Woo repeated the command. "Rise." This time, a thick shadow began to rise from the motionless body. Korea's S-rank healer was finally responding. Park Eun-ho, who had been watching without blinking, stepped forward, overwhelmed by disbelief. Placing a hand on Jin-Woo's shoulder, he asked with a trembling voice. "Hunter Jin-Woo, what's happening to Byeong-Gu? Was this the true nature of his power? To control the dead?" Choi Jong-in and Ma Dong-wook stood equally stunned as Min Byeong-Gu's shadow fully emerged. Unlike all the others, its presence was commanding, and one of a kind. Without receiving any order, the shadow walked over to Cha Hae-In. It opened a grimoire and, of its own will, began casting a healing spell. Park Eun-ho stood frozen. Jin-Woo, following the scene with his eyes, smiled faintly and murmured. "Now I understand. I understand who he truly was." Min Byeong-Gu didn't need orders. He chose to save Hae-In on his own. That man had a good heart. The healer's shadow showed a gentle smile as it channeled its healing energy. Park, however, shook his head, his gaze filled with sorrow. "Sung, that shadow's not my friend anymore." Jin-Woo didn't deny it. Deep down, he knew Park was right. The cameraman, still present, said nothing. Now he fully understood why Jin-Woo had insisted the camera be turned off. A power like that could never be shown to the world. Choi Jong-in understood too. The more that man fought, the stronger he became. He wasn't just another hunter. Park took a deep breath and spoke earnestly. "I know you'll face many more battles. and I know Byeong-Gu's strength could help you a lot." He paused for a moment, choosing his words carefully. "But he always hated fighting. Please, don't make him fight again." Jin-Woo said nothing. Those words struck something deep within him. Bak placed a hand on Jin-Woo's shoulder once more, not as a tense plea this time, but as a heartfelt request. And Jin-Woo understood. He approached Min Byeong-Gu's shadow, looked into its eyes, and with respect, said, "Cancel." The shadow smiled gently, as if it understood completely. As it faded into the air, its expression was one of peace. Bak Yun-ho smiled for the first time that night. His friend could finally rest. He then looked at Jin-Woo and, in a whisper full of gratitude, said, "Thank you." The sound of helicopter blades cutting through the sky signaled the aircraft's arrival. The chopper was landing on Jeju Island to rescue the surviving Korean hunters. Ma Dong-wook carried Cha Hae-In in his arms. Bak carried the body of his friend, Min Byeong-Gu. Before they boarded, Jin-Woo said, "I'm staying." Bak furrowed his brow, confused. "Stay? Why?" Jin-Woo simply gave him a firm look and replied, "I'm not done here." Bak stayed silent for a few seconds, then he understood. Jin-Woo's mission wasn't over yet. Up in the sky, dozens of winged ants still circled the island. They were still alive. Jin-Woo turned to the others and declared, "I'll clear the way. Leave the rest to me." With a firm motion, he summoned his shadow mount, Kaisail. The shadow wyvern erupted from the ground, colossal and majestic, spreading its wings with a silent roar. Bak Yun-Ho's eyes widened, stunned by the sight. Jin-Woo gave a slight smile and said, "See you later." Without hesitation, he mounted Kaisail and soared into the sky. His target, the remaining ants. Tearing through the sky at breakneck speed, Kaisail's wings sliced the air, and anything foolish enough to cross their path. Meanwhile, the S-rank hunters from Japan's Draw Sword Guild watched the island from afar. Minoru was in shock. That really was a monster. The others looked at him, puzzled. "You didn't see what happened to Go to Ruji. You've got no idea." He shuddered at the memory. "That thing can't be defeated. This whole raid was a complete disaster. There's no hunter who could beat that creature." The guild's vice leader tried to calm him. "Minoru, take it easy. The Jeju Island raid is over. The creature's been taken down." Minoru froze. That can't be true. But official statements from Korea's Hunter Association confirmed it. It was real. Sugimoto, who had remained quiet until now, remembered his last conversation with Go to Ruji. Japan's most powerful hunter had mentioned knowing someone extraordinary in Korea. A hunter beyond human understanding. His name, Sung Jin-Woo. Now, Sugimoto knew Goto had been right all along. But before they could process the revelation, a sailor burst into the room, panic-stricken. "The ants are spreading. There are still heaps of them alive." Instantly, everyone snapped to high alert. It was time to prepare for another fight. However, Jin-Woo's shadow soldiers were already deep in battle. They were wiping out the surviving ants with surgical and brutal precision. Even a few ants that had been turned into shadows were now fighting alongside Jin-Woo's army. Inside the nest, shadow mags unleashed powerful fireballs, incinerating the remaining eggs in cleansing flames. Sung Jin-Woo gave a faint smile. He had reason to celebrate. Even while destroying eggs that hadn't yet hatched, he continued earning experience. With a swift gesture, he opened his inventory and pulled out an item he hadn't seen in ages. A colossal sword. He'd nearly forgotten about it. Gripping the blade tightly, he felt the familiar weight in his hands. It was the Demon King's long sword. Leaving it tucked away any longer would have been a waste. With a powerful swing, he brandished the weapon, releasing a surge of electricity that wiped out dozens of eggs in one go. The roar of energy echoed through the entire nest, wiping out the last traces of the colony. Jin-Woo smiled again. His mission was nearly complete. Meanwhile, at the headquarters of the American Hunter Association, the footage of the battle against the ants was being broadcast on a massive screen. It was already past 4 in the morning, but no one dared mention being tired. What they were witnessing was beyond belief. Director David Brennan, eyes fixed on the video, was the first to break the silence. "Michael, what do you make of this?" Beside him, Michael Connor, one of the national rank hunters, watched the footage with his arms crossed and a sharp look in his eyes. "A hunter who can summon and command hundreds of soldiers," he murmured. "That's not normal." His eyes glinted slightly as he added, "It'd be a waste to keep someone like that confined to a small country like South Korea." David slowly nodded. "Do you have any more information?" Michael pulled out a folder and slid it across the table. "Something unusual happened a few months ago." David opened the file and started flipping through it. It was a report involving Sung Jin-Woo and a man identified as Hwan. In the northeastern US, a mysterious man had been apprehended by an A-rank hunter inside an S-rank gate. No one really knew what he was. Was he the dungeon boss? A monster in disguise? But the man claimed to be a South Korean hunter. All data on the incident had been logged in the association's system. David frowned. And this man? Michael answered firmly. That man is Sung Jin-Woo's father. The silence that followed was thick as fog. It was a rare opportunity. No other country knew the true extent of Jin-Woo's power. If the United States acted now, they could recruit him before the world realized his actual worth. But David hesitated. This wasn't the same as the situation with Hwang Dong-soo. South Korea was a trusted ally. Trying to lure away two S-rank hunters could easily be seen as provocation. That's when Michael asked the question. Isn't Jin-Woo worth the risk? David laced his fingers and stared at the screen. And do you think he'd accept? Michael simply smiled. I'll do my best. Meanwhile, deep within the ant nest, Sung Jin-Woo finally reached level 100. He had completely wiped out the remaining ants, reducing the colony to nothing but ashes. Taking a deep breath, he approached the Ant King's corpse. Even in death, the creature still gave off a suffocating aura. Without hesitation, Jin-Woo raised his hand. Rise. Instantly, the shadows surged violently. But instead of simply reanimating the body, Sung Jin-Woo was swallowed by absolute darkness. What? He was surrounded by a void. No sound. No light. No feeling whatsoever. He couldn't even sense his own body. What's going on? Had his shadow extraction skill failed? But this sensation was unlike any failure he'd ever experienced. That's when everything began to shift. The darkness slowly receded. And something appeared behind him. Turning around, Jin-Woo saw it. The Ant King. Or rather, its newly born shadow. A colossal aura radiated from the creature, powerful enough to surprise even Jin-Woo himself. But what shocked him the most was the rank it displayed. General. It was a title he had never seen before. There could only be one meaning. This shadow was the strongest he had ever summoned. Sung Jin-Woo smiled. The Ant King's shadow knelt before its new sovereign. It had emerged with the rank of general, the highest classification ever recorded among Sung Jin-Woo's soldiers. He had never seen a level like that before. That creature was more powerful than any shadow he had ever summoned. As he pondered this, he muttered to himself. This time, there was no queen. But suddenly, the ant's shadow manifested, surprising him. My king, please, grant me a name. Jin-Woo's eyes widened. How could that shadow speak to him? Could the supreme loyalty ability apply to it as well? The communication felt natural, something completely different from what he had experienced with other shadows. Trying to understand, Jin-Woo questioned in thought. Could it be because the ant could speak when it was alive? But that didn't explain everything. Igris had been human, and so had Min Byeong-Gu, a renowned S-rank hunter. Fang, the former dungeon boss, also remained silent after being converted. Despite their exceptional origins, none of them had spoken after turning into shadows. The only real difference was rank. Maybe high-ranking shadows eventually gained awareness and speech. Looking directly at the creature, Jin-Woo asked. I'm the one who defeated you. Even so, will you follow me? Obey me. Without hesitation, the shadow replied. I am not dead. I've been reborn through the Monarch's power. I feel immeasurable joy within me. I shall serve you for eternity, my king. It bowed deeply in reverence. And as if responding to an unspoken command, all the other ant shadows nearby also knelt down. Still prostrated, the new general spoke again. My king, please, grant me a name. Jin-Woo stayed silent for a moment, thinking. That entity needed a unique name. Something that would set it apart from all the others. Then, he remembered a famous author who had written a book titled The Ants. Your name shall be Beru. The shadow raised its face, visibly moved. I am deeply grateful, my lord. Shortly after, Jin-Woo approached the Queen Ant's corpse. He intended to add her to his army. He raised his hand and declared, Rise. From within the corpse, a massive shadow emerged. It was the Queen. And to his surprise, she also held the rank of general. But something strange occurred. The other ant shadows began to react. It was as if they sensed the presence of their former leader. Sung felt it immediately. His bond with those shadows was weakening. Concerned, he turned to Beru. What's happening? Beru responded with calm clarity. The Queen possesses an innate ability to control the colony. In that moment, Jin-Woo understood everything. Control of the colony was no longer his. It now belonged to the Queen. But something still didn't add up. Despite her high classification, the Queen's magic energy felt weak. Why? Beru explained naturally. The Queen's magical power is focused on reproduction. However, without a physical body, reproduction becomes impossible. Jin-Woo understood immediately. The Queen had never been a warrior. Her role was to produce, to lead, not to fight. And in an army like his, there was no place for two commanders. Without hesitation, Jin-Woo cancelled the summon. The second general-ranked shadow was erased. Meanwhile, his shadow soldiers continued gathering the magic crystals scattered across the battlefield. But then, Jin-Woo raised his voice with authority. Stop. Those crystals weren't just spoils of war. They would be used to rebuild Jeju Island and serve as compensation for the colossal damage caused by the invasion. They weren't something to simply take and carry off. In the end, Jin-Woo decided to collect only the crystal extracted from Beru's body. That alone was more than enough. But there was still another urgent concern. The remaining ants had to be wiped out. Sung wondered if he still had enough energy to finish the job. That's when Beru spoke up. My king, I can sense our enemies growing weaker. Jin-Woo gave him a sharp look. Beru continued. Without leadership, the ants are in disarray. They've started to scatter. Sung thought for a moment, then asked. How many are left? Beru replied with precision. Before the raid began, there were around 8,700 ants. Now, roughly 4,000 remain. The number surprised Jin-Woo. He'd thought he'd eliminated far more. He hadn't imagined so many were still active. Looking at his shadow general, he asked. Can you handle all of them? Beru's eyes gleamed brightly. Just give the word, my lord. At that moment, South Korean Navy ships appeared in the distance and began firing on the fleeing ants. Mage-type hunters joined the battle too, casting deadly accurate spells. Magical explosions tore through the sky, striking down the winged creatures one after another. The battlefield had turned into a true hellscape. As the ants pushed north across the island, they clashed with the Knights Guild. Now it was the White Tiger Guild's turn to engage in combat. The winged creatures came in large numbers, and the guild's hunters stood their ground, ready for close combat. The Fame Guild was also already in position. Holding their ground was crucial. They couldn't afford to give up any territory. The leader's commands rang out firmly. Hold the line. Don't scatter. Each one of those ants was, at the very least, equivalent to a B-rank hunter. Underestimating such enemies could be fatal, even with superior numbers. There was another driving force behind the fierce resistance. The Reapers Guild had to redeem their reputation after past failures. The well-known hunter Lim In-sung was visibly shaken. Despite being an A-rank, he looked like anything but an elite in the face of this threat. Meanwhile, ants had appeared in the waters near Korea Bay. Lower-ranked hunters had been stationed there for defense, but the fear in their eyes was undeniable. Do you think we'll be able to stop them? They muttered in doubt. The creatures charged straight towards Sung Jin-Woo's allies. The danger was imminent. They were moments away from being overwhelmed. But in the blink of an eye, all the ants were shredded to pieces. The group looked around in disbelief. Who had taken out so many enemies that fast? The answer came immediately, Beru. Moving with superhuman speed, the Shadow General tore across the battlefield with razor-sharp claws, tearing through enemies with merciless precision. Every strike was lethal. Every movement, calculated. The supremacy of the Shadow Army was undeniable. The battle raged on for 2 full days. And finally, every remaining ant was eliminated. However, the threat wasn't limited to South Korea. New swarms had begun to emerge in the Chinese Sea, crossing the waters toward Chinese territory. The scene shifts. Aboard a Chinese military vessel, a captain stood at the bow, staring into the distance, exhausted. His expression revealed the strain of the past few days. It's been 2 days, and we haven't had a single moment of rest? The crew awaited orders. Captain, should we open fire? But the officer raised a hand, signaling them to wait. No. China's hero wants to handle this personally. From the deck, a towering figure approached, walking calmly. A Chinese hunter, with 2 swords strapped to his waist, stepped to the edge of the ship. His eyes calmly studied the massive swarm of ants heading their way. There really are a lot of them. He smiled. But now, they'll find peace at the bottom of the ocean. With a swift, precise motion, the hunter drew his swords. A wave of magical energy burst around him, shaking the deck of the ship. Both blades sliced through the air, unleashing mana strikes that shot furiously toward the swarm. Cracks of pure magical energy tore through the sky. Moments later, massive explosions filled the horizon, swallowing dozens of ants in a storm of light and destruction. The silence that followed was almost surreal. Calmly, the hunter sheathed his swords. He murmured to himself, a hint of frustration in his voice. To have fought that and Sung Jin-Woo took down? Now that would have been a proper challenge. What a waste. All around him, the bodies of the obliterated ants piled up. With a single attack, he had shown just how terrifying his power truly was. China's strongest hunter had made his mark. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, in the United States, a national-level hunter watched the footage from Jeju Island in silence. His eyes were locked on the screen, his mind analyzing every detail of the battle. There's only one link between Mr. Huang and Sung Jin-Woo. He paused briefly, then continued. Wang Dongsu's older brother. Most likely, Jin-Woo's the one who killed him. That's what all this is about. Revenge. He let out a long sigh, like someone mourning a missed opportunity. That just makes it even harder to get close to Jin-Woo, and I really wanted to talk to him. What a shame. This man was Thomas Andre, one of America's national-level hunters and the supreme leader of the powerful scavenger guild. Beside him, Laura, a trusted hunter, was watching the broadcast with the same focus. She then asked, her tone serious. What will you do if there really is a clash between Sung Jin-Woo and Hwang Dong-su? Thomas turned to her, flashing a smile that carried both confidence and menace. Laura, you don't know me that well yet, do you? Standing up from his chair, he crossed his arms, his presence radiating absolute authority. The room seemed to bend under the weight of it, intense, solid, undeniable. Hwang Dong-su is a member of the Scavenger Guild. And the Scavenger Guild is mine. His eyes turned cold, merciless. I never forgive anyone who lays a hand on what belongs to me. Not even, if it's the United States government itself. On the third night of the Jeju Island raid, military forces and members of the Knights Guild arrived to collect the mana crystals scattered across the battlefield. Park Jong-soo, the guild's leader, observed the surroundings in silence before whispering. Some people just aren't lucky. His voice carried a deep melancholy. That man gave everything he had to become the best. He dreamt of winning an Olympic medal. He trained alone, with ruthless discipline. Dropped weight to change categories, endured brutal workouts. All he needed was one thing, the chance to compete. Jong-soo paused, his gaze distant, lost in memories. The drug test came back clean. The night before the competition, he slept peacefully, without a single nightmare. He was in the best shape of his life, body and mind. But then, everything changed in an instant. He was detected by the magic meter. Classified as awakened. And because of that, barred from competing in the games. As he recalled the past, tears ran down his face. That had been his own story. The dream he'd nurtured for years was left behind. In exchange, he found a new purpose, to make his guild the strongest in Korea. Jong Yun-tae, a member of the guild, spoke sincerely. Boss, you are honestly incredible. Jong-soo then examined the crystals nearby and remarked. These crystals are incredibly pure. If we manage to collect them all, we'll become the #1 guild in the country. The area was wrapped in an eerie silence. All that remained were the twisted bodies of the magical ants. No trace of lingering energy. Then, a single surviving ant emerged from the rubble. Without hesitation, Park Jong-soo unsheathed his sword and, with a precise strike, decapitated the creature. The strength of a true A-rank hunter. The Knights Guild master turned to the soldiers and said confidently, "Don't worry. The guild's here now." But in the next instant, he and Jong Yun-tae sensed something dreadful approaching. A colossal presence. A suffocating force. The soldiers, overcome with fear, whispered among themselves. Who is that? A figure emerged from the mist. Its presence was overwhelming. Piercing yellow eyes. Long hair. Rough clothing made from beast hides and monster bones. Park Jong-soo, trying to stay composed, called out. Identify yourself. After all, only teams authorized by the association were permitted on the island. Jong Yun-tae, observing the intimidating figure, thought, this man, is he even human? Park instructed the soldiers not to shoot. Despite the appearance, the stranger didn't seem like a monster. But then, the man muttered something. It wasn't Korean. The language was strange. Inhuman. Jong-soo's blood ran cold. That's the language of monsters? Before anyone could react, a simple snap of his fingers echoed through the air. And then, everything changed. A brutal wave of magical pressure dropped onto the field. Hunters and soldiers felt their bodies buckle under the invisible weight. One by one, they collapsed. Their consciousness snuffed out like lights in a blackout. Soon after, another man approached. His bluish skin shimmered faintly under the moonlight. His voice dripped with arrogance. No need to make a scene. I just put them to sleep for a bit. He glanced sideways, as if offering proof of his words. Before the unconscious bodies now stood two imposing figures. Hae-In, the beast monarch, and Sillard, the monarch of frost. Hae-In crossed his arms, watching closely. I'm certain, this is the power of that guy. Sillard frowned, puzzled. It's strange. I don't understand why he's helping the humans. Hae-In let out a dry laugh. Who knows? Since you're so curious, why not ask him yourself? The beast monarch took a deep breath, grimacing in disgust. This place reeks, rotten insect carcasses everywhere. If she saw this, she'd surely be horrified. Without further delay, he declared coldly. The hunt will continue as planned. Nothing's changed. Sillard, the monarch of frost, raised his hand, channeling mana through his fingers. With a subtle motion, he opened a dimensional portal, ready to leave. But before stepping through, Hae-In sniffed the air and muttered. He was here. A crooked smile crept across his face. How about we deal with that, since we are already here? Sillard simply shook his head, uninterested. Leave that to him. His tone made it clear. He had no intention of getting more involved than necessary. Without hesitation, he stepped through the portal and vanished. Hae-In lingered for a few moments, eyeing the unconscious bodies scattered on the ground. His gaze brimmed with disdain. The frost monarch, always running from a fight. Still, he knew attracting too much attention was unwise. With a single movement, he raised one claw and tore open the space before him, opening his own dimensional rift. Without looking back, he stepped through the portal and left Jeju Island. Meanwhile, the atmosphere was heavy with sorrow. The funeral of Min Byeong-Gu and Gong Yoo-jin was held under a deep silence, marked by the mourning of an entire nation. Reporters gathered around, and cameras captured every detail of the moving farewell. Jin-Woo walked slowly among those present, holding a white flower between his fingers. After the Jeju raid, the country had been swept by a wave of emotion. Online, the comments about Jin-Woo were overwhelming. I can't even describe it. I thought it was impossible to summon that many monsters at once. Another post had gone viral. I fought cancer for 10 years. But after seeing Hunter Jin-Woo command those creatures, I found hope again. He's amazing. He's the best, no doubt about it. Public opinion about Jin-Woo had shifted drastically. His role in Jeju, his first as an officially recognized S-rank hunter, had sparked intense debate. Is it too early to consider him a national-level hunter? Some said it was still too soon to tell. After all, it was only his first mission as an S-rank. But others argued firmly. He did the impossible. Took on an S-rank dungeon solo, right out of the gate. And then, a delicate question began to circulate. If Jin-Woo had been part of the raid from the beginning, would Min Byeong-Gu still be alive? Not even he was spared from criticism. Despite the many who defended him, harsher voices still echoed. It was an undeniable fact, many lives had been lost. During the service, Jin-Woo crossed paths with Park Yun-ho, leader of the Hunters Guild. The veteran paused for a moment, and with a thoughtful look, said, I always believed a hunter alone could never win a war. He paused. But after what I saw, maybe I was wrong. Looking at Jin-Woo with respect, he added, Stay strong, hunter. You've written the final pages of this bloody chapter. Thank you. Among the crowd, Cha Hae-In watched Jin-Woo from a distance, her eyes filled with conflicted emotions. When she noticed he was looking directly at her, she quickly turned away, embarrassed. The 5th Jeju raid had mobilized 4,801 hunters. Among them, 727 were newly awakened. Even so, 64 hunters and 32 civilians lost their lives. Despite the tragedy, it was the lowest death toll of any raid held on the island so far. Shortly after, Jin-Woo was summoned for a meeting with Association President Go Gun-hee. The veteran studied him carefully before asking, Have you thought about forming your own guild? He explained that, as an S-rank hunter, Jin-Woo didn't need prior approval to become a guild master. One phone call to the association, and the process would begin. Jin-Woo understood. There was still much to learn about the privileges and responsibilities of being an S-rank hunter. Then, Go Gun-hee asked an unexpected question. Did you place some kind of magical barrier over Jeju Island? Jin-Woo furrowed his brow, clearly surprised. No, I didn't do anything like that. The association president continued. After the raid ended, when hunters returned to the island to eliminate the remaining ants and collect the mana crystals, many of them simply passed out. Among the affected were A-rank and B-rank hunters, including members of the Knights Guild. Go Gun-hee suspected Jin-Woo might have left behind some kind of magical trap as a way to protect the area. But Jin-Woo denied it firmly. And now, He himself began to wonder. Could it have been a trap set by the ants themselves? Before they could continue the analysis, one of the president's aides approached discreetly. "Sir, one of your guests has arrived earlier than expected." Go Gun-hee thanked him for the update and bid Jin-Woo farewell. Jin-Woo made his way to the car park, walking towards his van. But just as he reached for the door, he heard a voice call out to him. He turned around. It was a foreign man. Adam White, a senior agent from the American Hunter Association, approached with a polite smile. He handed over a business card as he introduced himself. "I've been trying to find you, Hunter Sung Jin-Woo. I stopped by your office, but no luck." Jin-Woo quickly made the connection. Must be the foreigner Jin-Ho mentioned. Curious, he asked directly. "So, what do you want with me?" Adam kept his confident posture and replied. "I've got valuable information. Stuff you won't hear from any government, or any other organization. Only from us." Jin-Woo narrowed his eyes. "And why would you be willing to share that with me?" The agent folded his arms and explained firmly. "Revealing certain secrets, to the right people, can benefit us too." Originally, Adam had planned to handle the matter personally. But after the director of the American Hunter Association watched Jin-Woo's performance on Jeju Island, he insisted on arranging a face-to-face meeting. "It's not something that happens often, believe me." Adam pointed to a black car parked just ahead. "What do you say? Will you meet him?" Jin-Woo hesitated. He still wasn't sure he could fully trust them. "I'll think about it. I'll let you know." Adam smiled cryptically. In any negotiation, the stronger your hand, the less you should hide it. And before walking away, he left one final clue. The pig raider? Get to know the hunter who will raise another hunter's power. Jin-Woo's eyes widened. That line caught him completely off guard. Now, he couldn't ignore the invitation any longer. He'd made up his mind. He would accept the meeting with the mysterious hunter. Don't miss the next episode of Solo Leveling right here on this channel. Let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Should I keep the story going here? Your feedback means heaps and will help shape the future of this project. Thanks a ton for sticking around till the end. Catch YA in the next video.